How did an expatriate, eccentric Englishman become the grandfather of gay porn? Peter de Rome, whose erotic films were made at a time when doing so was incredibly dangerous, would later gain recognition in the 1970s with Jack DeVoe, and then some 40 years later with a different generation. In this episode, we're going to celebrate Peter de Rome, a charming Englishman and cinematic outlaw who channeled his erotic side and experimented with putting his unique vision on celluloid, by doing so contributing to some of the best gay erotic films in the industry's history. This is Demystifying Gay Porn. My name is Ike Grande, and if you watch gay porn, I've definitely helped to get off. Before we continue, I want to remind you that you can help this channel and its original yet risque content by liking, clicking the subscribe button, or selecting the bell icon for notifications to see more content like this. And for all you podcast listeners, leave a review or rate it if you can. Thank you. Peter de Rome was born in Joie-les-Pins, Côte d'Azur, France, and was raised in the southern part of England. At an early age, de Rome developed a fascination with movies, often going as far as skipping school and watching 2 to 3 movies at a time. De Rome also mentions having grown up with National Geographic magazines in the house and always being drawn to darker and indigenous men. Also around this time, de Rome volunteered for the Royal Air Force and served in France, Belgium, and Germany. When he returned to civilian life, de Rome flirted with the idea of becoming an actor. He then found himself in the British film industry. His first job was as a publicist working on such films like The Third Man by David O. Selznick. De Rome left post-war England in 1956 when Selznick offered him a job on his upcoming film, A Farewell to Arms. When he arrived in New York, the film had a hard time getting off the ground, and de Rome got a job at Tiffany's. De Rome was working at Tiffany's. At the time, a little film called Breakfast at Tiffany's, starring Audrey Hepburn and George Peppard, was being made. De Rome then left Tiffany's and went down south and spent 2 years of his life working in the civil rights movement, calling the experience the most meaningful and best part of his life. De Rome and his actor friend, Madeline Sherwood, went down to Alabama and demonstrated on behalf of members of the movement who had been thrown in jail. During this time, de Rome bought a video camera to use during the demonstrations. After his involvement with the civil rights movement, de Rome came home and began to use his video camera to film naked men, both himself and others, and made short 8mm films. Before long, he was experimenting with film and working in little bits of nudity, seeing what he can get through the film developers. At that time, film developers were within their rights to destroy anything they deemed obscene. He began to look back at the films he loved for inspiration, but was also inspired by the new post-war filmmakers and visual realism. He was also very inspired by Un Chant d'Amour by Jean Genet. De Rome's first official film, according to him, was called Butch Easter, in which he claims to have started shooting in Central Park when a handsome black man got in his shot, and de Rome followed him around town and finally invited him to his home. The two men then fooled around. De Rome began making erotic films, sometimes of his very own erotic encounters, and showed them privately at parties to friends and acquaintances. Word of their unusual content spread until invitations to a showing of de Rome's films in Paris, London, and New York became the hottest underground ticket in town, with international celebrities vying with each other for a screening. Then de Rome began to get distributor interest, and in 1973, de Rome's program, The Erotic Films of Peter de Rome, opened in New York City to glowing reviews. De Rome painstakingly crafted and originally made films for the amusement of friends who urged him to have them blown up and made commercially available. His 30 or so gay short films are an amalgamation of bits and pieces of his life and tangents he's gone off on. One of the things of note is de Rome is one of the only directors of this period who fully explored black eroticism. De Rome made a conscious effort to have several black men in every film he made. Many of his films were shot in various locations, from Paris to London to Malaga to New York City. Interweaving images of magical places gave warmth to the chasing and the cruising, filled with psychological excitement of threat and horniness. His short film Double Exposure is surreal, simple, and erotic, showcasing Derome's delicate balance between the dance of the camera work and the editing. Hot Pants is simple and precise, a skill that is very underrated. Derome's short film Second Coming, shot predominantly in Malaga, centers on the quest for a statue of the crucified Christ that has the miraculous ability to get an erection and ejaculate. Daydreams from a Crosstown Bus centers around the sexual fantasies of a young man as he rides the bus, and is shot in a stream of consciousness that reveals the obsessive and arbitrary nature of sexual fetishizing. Mumbo Jumbo is a satire on the slogan-crazed world of advertising while intersplicing images of nude men, revealing the homosexual subtext of much of Madison Avenue. Green Thoughts is a satire on the Back to Nature and Save the Environment movements of the 1970s. Underground is about a blowjob on a subway. It captures the reality of what goes into a public hookup without getting caught. The title of the film referring not only to the subway, but an entire way of life that is buried under the veneer of civilization. It became one of Derome's most notable short films. Prometheus is a compelling exploration of bondage on film. The allegorical story of a Greek hero chained to a rock as punishment for giving mankind the gift of fire. Combining classic mythology with contemporary sexual practices, revealing the archetypal timelessness of both. Fire Island Kids, Encounters, all very important yet different experiences to the people they inspired. The film that Peter Derome is probably best known for is Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve is a full-length feature, Derome's first, produced by Hand in Hand Films.
This is Peter Derome, and we've been just looking at the trailer, the coming attractions for Peter's new film, Adam and Eve, which Peter shot this past summer in France.
We shot in various places, the Parc Saint-Cloud and the chapel in the country where Jean Cocteau is buried. And we also went to Père Lachaise, where Oscar Wilde is buried. And most of these places we weren't allowed to film in, and that we were always getting harassed by the police, but we used to sneak in with the cameras and little bags and things.
Actually, the difficulty which we anticipated was the easiest part, which was getting the actors and the film and to France and back into the country. In fact, when we brought the film back into the United States, the customs inspectors thought, because of the markings on the cans, that we had made a vacation film.
It is an erotic game in 5 sequences, a story about an American tourist and Eve. The men have a brief affair, but a long-lasting relationship is prevented by Eve's insistence that they not share personal information. It also stars adult film icon Bill Eld as a narcissist and is technically known as the final film appearance for actress Greta Garbo. I'll tell you more about that later. Lastly, it was also one of the first times there was an all-black orgy in a gay porn film. Adam and Eve screened at film festivals across the US and Canada and made Derome a name synonymous with quality hardcore cinema. Peter Derome is the grandfather of gay porn, or as he would have it, the granddaddy of gay porn, an auteur who started making movies when it was incredibly illegal. He stopped making his own films in the 1980s when AIDS was taking its toll on the gay community. Derome was content with going back to his day job as a publicist for Paramount Pictures and enjoying his life. When Derome's work was rediscovered in the early part of the 21st century, audiences were already used to hardcore gay erotica as the norm. Derome's work could be seen by steady consumers as lacking fireworks, where penetration took a backseat to thematic and stylistic decisions. However, there is a mystique attached to the name Peter Derome. Much of it is simply based on a viewer's particular taste and how well Derome chooses to satisfy them or not satisfy them.
Here I am in St. Augustine's Cemetery in Ramsgate, but my family plot is right behind me. They're only waiting for me to join them, and that'll be the end of the Jeromes in England. It's a very nice, quiet little place.
Peter Jerome passed away at his home in Kent on June 21st, 2014, just shy of his 90th birthday. Before his passing, Jerome had the privilege of having his work archived at the British Film Institute and remains one of the only gay erotic filmmakers to hold that prestige. There is also a brilliant documentary by Ethan Reed called Peter Jerome, Grandfather of Gay Porn, that was made in 2014. Fun fact, Peter Jerome moved to New York City and lived in his cushy and cozy apartment for 20 years in a plush neighborhood thanks to rent control. Jerome lived just around the corner from film legend Greta Garbo. While shooting Adam and Eve, Garbo was out for a walk and Jerome filmed her walking across First Avenue. The footage was inserted into Adam and Eve, and its presence was explained by having Adam recalling how he once saw the elusive star. The footage was used without Garbo's knowledge or permission, and she was never paid for her appearance. You've been watching Demystifying Gay Porn. I am your host, Ike Grande. Demystifying Gay Porn is available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. Demystifying Gay Porn is on X, Instagram, Facebook, Telegram. And if you like what you're watching or listening to and want to be a part of the creative process, head over to patreon.com/demystifyinggayporn, where you can help support this audiovisual podcast and YouTube channel, and I can continue making content like you've just enjoyed. Once again, this is Demystifying Gay Porn. My name is Ike Grande, and if you watch gay porn, I've definitely helped to get off. Cheers.